So student protests in solidarity with Palestinians are continuing to gain momentum, spreading across the United States and around the globe. Police in New York have removed students from a solidarity encampment at New York University. Similar operations at Columbia University and UCLA and other universities have seen more than 2,000 people arrested. In Berlin, police blocked the entrance to Humboldt University, arresting several people who were also protesting in solidarity with Palestinians. In Paris now, police removed at least 50 protesters occupying parts of Sciences Po University. 6 of the protesters had been on hunger strike and were staging a sit-in. Well, we'll be hearing from our correspondents in both Paris and Berlin shortly. Let's start, though, in the United States. Mike Hanna is at George Washington University. John Hendren is at the University of Michigan. And Kristen Saloomey is at a police station near New York University. So you're there, Kristen, because there have been arrests in New York.
Absolutely. The last 2 student encampments were cleared out early this morning, much to the students' surprise. About 60 of them were arrested. 16 of them from New York University, the rest from the New School, and they were taken to the police plaza, which is behind me, to be processed. You can see the police presence outside here, and as you look around, there's a whole support team here waiting for the students as they're released from being processed one by one. They've been coming out. There's a legal team here. There are students with water, students with medical supplies, students with food to show their support and give them assistance when they come out of the police processing system. And as those students come out, they're being cheered by the students here, and I should say faculty members as well. We've seen a lot of faculty coming and going. There's at least 100, maybe 200 people around the corner offering that support. The students I've been speaking to here say that it was an unexpected arrest, that at NYU in particular, just yesterday they were speaking with the administration, and the administration told them they had no plans to clear the encampment. They think the fact that a large dinner for Shabbat with Jewish students, about 2,000 Jewish students, was planned in the building right next to where they were set up for that evening may have been a trigger for the arrests, that they didn't want to have any conflict or any interaction happening there. The students say, however, that they are a peaceful organization. Many of the students that were in the encampment, including some who were arrested, are themselves Jewish. And now they are planning their own Shabbat dinner outside of that one where the encampment was later today to continue the demonstrations, to continue the protests. They say, if anything, this has invigorated them more, and they're not going to stop.
All right, Kristen, thank you very much. That is how the encampment was dealt with at the site of the New York University. Let's go to John Hendren, who's at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor, Michigan. John, all right, well, I have part of my answer because I see the tents behind you. I know that there are graduation ceremonies taking place today. I wonder whether that might also be a flashpoint, because universities usually don't like their graduation ceremony to be disrupted.
That's right. It seems that other universities have definitely cleared out these encampments before their graduation ceremonies, which we've seen in New York. I don't know if that was part of the timing, but I'll tell you, we're probably 2-3 football fields away from where a graduation is going on right now, and yet this protest here continues, as it has been for some time. And on Saturday, one day from now, 8,000 people will graduate in a massive ceremony with 63,000 people watching. So apparently protests and graduations can coexist. But I've got someone who can tell us a little more about this. This is Salma Hamami. Thank you for joining us, Salma. She's with Students for Justice in Palestine. Let me know if I've said that wrong.
No, you said it correctly.
So tell me, how is the protest coexisting with the graduations right now?
Yeah, so protests are always going to exist when our university remains complicit in the ongoing genocide in Gaza and has been directly and indirectly contributing financially to the military companies that are bombing Gaza. So we cannot operate as business as usual. So the university is going to try their absolute best to do that. However, students are always going to be 5 steps ahead of them, and they are going to plan and they are going to coordinate. Students here are absolutely committed and dedicated, which is why they are withholding themselves back from any and all celebratory actions to commit to actions for Gaza, and we will see that take place through every single graduation across the country.
And let me ask, you've got a personal connection with Palestine. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I am from Nablus. I also have family members in Gaza. About 14 of them were recently killed in an ongoing Israeli attack.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And not only myself, but also several students here have lost hundreds of family members in Gaza because Palestinians have been scattered all throughout the world. So the resistance and the resilience continues to exist here within the confines of Ann Arbor and beyond. So students here have personal connections, and students here who also don't have personal connections are witnessing this and will stand up.
Excellent. And just one quick question. You are going to remain here after graduation, correct?
Yes. Despite myself graduating, I am from Ann Arbor. I will be here. I will be wherever the place is that is contributing to the genocide against my people. We are going to continue to fight. So students here are not backing down.
Thank you, Salma Hamami from Students for Justice in Palestine. Thank you for joining us. So we're here at this encampment, and they say that they're going to remain here after graduation.
Right, and I'm glad you asked that last question, John, because it is the end of the academic year. Typically, students go back home, so it does raise the question of the lasting power, of these protests. I'll go to Mike now. Mike Hanna is at George Washington University in Washington, D.C. So we see every university deals with it differently. Where you are, this triangle of law enforcement, university leadership, and the protesters seem to have found a way to coexist for these protests to continue peacefully. Where do you see this going?
Well, the key issue was the refusal of DC police to accept the call by university administrators to move in and move the encampment when it began 9 days ago. But another key issue here as well is the self-regulation of the demonstrators. They hold a meeting at 11 o'clock. They go through all the rules of the encampment. Only chosen representatives speak to police, speak to the media. So all is very tightly organized. Exams begin tomorrow, the end of year exams. The ones that were due to take place in buildings around University Yard, this area, have been moved to other buildings. And then commencement, graduation takes place on Sunday the 19th. That's in just over 2 weeks' time. So the question of whether the students will remain there after commencement, that is something that is open to speculation. Those we have spoken to are insistent that, yes, they are going to remain.
Okay, so you see this. Sorry, let me rephrase. They say that they will remain. That is yet to be seen. Sometime during the month of May, usually is when students go home. They say they're going to stay there. Mike, as you take a broader look at this, what's the impact of these protests been? You were telling us, there are multiple ways to look at this. There's the politics of it. There's how much these protests actually move the needle on the national stage, which is always hard to assess.
Yes, it does move the needle on the national stage. It is a reminder to Americans of what happened in the protests against the Vietnam War way back in the 60s. Those were heavily criticized, but resulted to a degree in the end of the war. So this is a point of discussion among the American public. These protests are a point of dispute among many of the public. Some support them, some don't. But what is an undercurrent of discussion as well is the fact that while they remain lawful, they have a right to exercise their voice. Now, this is an American principle as part of the Constitution, and it is being exercised while no laws are contravened. And just one extra word on that, to understand why the students here are self-regulating to this degree, you just have to take a walk through the food court behind me here. There are DC police. but there are also Secret Service agents. There are protection officers from the State Department. There are paramedics from the nearby hospital, which is a presidential emergency hospital. This square is at the epicenter of some of the nation's most secure and vulnerable and sensitive sites. The security around them is unbelievable. The demonstrators are well aware that security around them goes far beyond the local DC police. It is layer upon layer upon layer, and hence no red lines are crossed. They are very careful to observe the law to its letter.
You're right. That's a very good point that you made. There's a lot less room there for unpredictability and disruption generally around these protests, just due to where they are geographically, so close to the White House and the State Department. Thank you very much, Mike Hanna.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.